Fire protection districts across the state had to make budget cuts in 2017 because of a provision in Colorado's Constitution. A provision that meant that growth in housing prices in certain parts of the state forced budget restrictions to firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics in other areas of Colorado, particularly areas like Arvada, whose property tax base consists mostly of residential property. This video explains why. In 1982, voters passed the Gallagher Amendment to the Constitution that changed the way homes were appraised, and it also required that the amount of property taxes collected from homes statewide could never account for more than roughly 45% of total property tax collections statewide. The amendment means that the remaining 55% of property taxes must come from non-residential property, like businesses and agricultural property. Gallagher also dictated the assessment rate for all property. What's the assessment rate? It's the percentage of a property's value that is subject to taxation. You don't pay taxes on the entire value of your home, only a portion of it. For example, for every $100,000 in actual home value and the assessment rate at 7.2%, you only pay property taxes on $7,200 of that $100,000 of the home's value. That assessed value gets multiplied by your locally approved mills. About half goes to the school district, some for the county, some for the city, and some for special districts like Arvada Fire Protection District. Gallagher set the assessment rate on most non-residential property in the Constitution at 29%. That set rate means that the assessment rate for residential property must fluctuate to maintain the roughly 45-55 ratio. When Gallagher was added to the Constitution, the residential assessment rate was 21%. Throughout the 1980s, the growth in value of residential property outpaced increases in non-residential property values. With ever-rising residential property values, the assessment rate on homes had to be lowered. It fell to 18%, then 16%, then 15%. It hit 10.36% in 1995, then it fell to 7.96% in 2003. In 2017, it dropped to 7.2%. We can already see the budget cuts that resulted from the Gallagher drop from 7.96% to 7.2% in 2017. That's roughly a 10% drop in the rate. This hurt different parts of Colorado differently. Areas of Colorado that have a lot of non-residential property weren't impacted by the drop in the rate on homes as much as areas of the state whose property tax comes mostly from residential property. And unlike schools, which get more money from the state budget if their local revenue falls, fire districts don't get help from the state. They are totally dependent upon local funding sources. Let's look back at our example of assessed value per $100,000 in actual home value. At an assessment rate of 7.96%, assessed value is $7,960 per $100,000 in value. With the assessment rate falling to 7.2% in 2017, assessed value is $7,200 per $100,000 in value. So, while home values may increase, the amount of assessed value and thus tax revenue may not keep pace with the growth in actual value. Take a look at Arvada Fire Protection District, who has above the average share of its property in residential property. 88% of Arvada Fire Protection District's total property valuation is residential. This means the drop in assessment rate on homes disproportionately impacts Arvada Fire Protection District. In spite of strong growth in housing prices, much of the increase needed to keep up with population growth in our service area has been negated by Gallagher. Unfortunately, this problem will get worse in the coming years because residential property value increases continue to outpace non-residential value growth statewide. Gallagher will cause another, even bigger drop in property tax collections in 2020 and beyond. In 2019, a projected Gallagher drop to 6.1% would delay Arvada Fire Protection District from building any new stations to keep up with growth, which would result in longer emergency response times. Additionally, it may prevent the district from hiring new staff and purchasing new equipment. In fact, Arvada Fire Protection District will lose between $3 and $4 million annually if the assessment rate on homes drops to 6.1%. The 10% drop in 2017 and another projected 15% drop in 2019 means the residential assessment rate will have fallen by nearly 25% in 4 years. At the same time, emergency call volume in the Arvada Fire Protection District is growing by 18%. This will make it difficult for the Arvada Fire Protection District to keep up with increased population, emergency call volume, and inflation, and may adversely affect future staffing, construction, and maintenance of fire trucks and stations. This video was brought to you by the Colorado Fiscal Institute with support from the Arvada Fire Protection District.